It's always an exciting day. We almost always spend the whole day there. The morning in the market, and then there are so many different subject matters that can be painted after lunch, including one spectacular view down the valley of leading down. So you're looking back down to the watermill, because Fivizzano is about 2 kilometers from the watermill. I love markets. For many years I've been painting them, and I was just thinking earlier that I've painted markets in France, Italy, around the Mediterranean and Europe generally, Africa, Asia. Just recently been discovering markets in Vietnam and so forth. And I've always been drawn to the excitement and the buzz and the movement of markets. And Fivizzano is no different. And in fact, we've had it relatively quiet for the last 3 days, although it might have been a bit busy in Pisa. The last 2 days in particular, especially around the castle, have been quiet. And now Tuesday, market day, is full of noise and buzz and movement and so forth. And one of the things that has always intrigued me is the people, just people watching generally, whether at the market they are striding purposefully from one stand to the next, or lazily shopping or looking down at what it is they may or may not be buying, especially groups of people, just a couple of people or groups of people chatting. The marketplace at Fivizzano has a number of cafes around it, so there's plenty of opportunities to go and have a coffee and to watch people having coffees and just chilling out on market morning. Today, and I've never taught this, certainly online, but I've never taught it before, but we're going to be dealing with just the people that might be at the market. And oddly, these two ladies were at the market, but they were tucked around a corner, and they caught my attention. So I'll come back to those in a moment, because they're going to be the subject of what we're doing. But the subject matter, I've just lost my track on what I was saying there. But it is about the people we're doing. Oh yes, I've got back onto where I was about to say that for those of you who would like to, and me, that includes me very much, be involved with the noise and the buzz of a market. Well, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. In fact, when we go on our day off to Lucca, I've selected a flower market that takes place in a really amazing part of the center of Lucca. And so we will be, in fact, looking at a traditional market tomorrow in our painting. But today, it's about people watching. And I know that some of you might feel a little daunted about this, about drawing figures. And so I've brought into this lesson a number of things that I think might help you. First of all, we're going to be using this as the subject matter. And I'm going to be asking you to make, I think, about 3 paintings and drawings and paintings, but using the same subject matter. So you're going to have a chance to revisit the subject matter a couple of times, and hopefully that will give you experience in dealing with the people. Also, as I go through, I will talk to you about little tips that will help you when you're drawing people. And it can be very difficult, figure drawing, but I'm hoping that I can help to make it a little easier for you to deal with. Now, I'll come back to that in a moment. So let me just talk about what I'm going to be drawing on and with. So let's move these chaps out of the way. I'm going to use a sketchbook today. So, I'm going to be using a sketchbook here. It's a hardback sketchbook. It's got it's not as good a watercolor paper as I've been using up until now, but it works reasonably well. And I don't even know what make this is. It's not Moleskine, but you can see it's about A4 size, and it folds into landscape and opens up. So I'm going to be using that, and I'm very happy for you to use a sketchbook or to work on paper, or to work on several sheets. I'm going to be doing each one of my drawings on a different page here, or for you to work on several pages of a sketchbook or lots of different pieces, or even if you want to, and I think this might be quite a good idea, to do all three studies on one sheet of paper. I mean, that would work really well. I had actually thought of doing that myself, but I won't. So there are a number of surfaces on which you can draw and paint today. A couple of people have asked me about this field set that I briefly introduced you to, that this is my third or fourth one I've had for many years. And I thought, well, I'll use it today. So when the time comes, I'll introduce you to this. There's no great difficulty here, because the colors that are in here are exactly the colors that I've got in my palette that we've been using up until now, but there are not so many of them. So I've selected the ones that, and that's quite an interesting thing, just to know which colors it was that I selected. And you'll see the types of brushes. I'll use this when we come to actually watercolor, but we're not going to be doing that straight away. What I will be using today are two pens. I'll start off with this soluble pen. Now, I'm hoping that you've all got one of these. I asked Lois, I know, put the message out, and you don't have to have this particular one, but the point is that it's a pen with ink that when you put water on it, it will flood it. You know, often you might draw with a pen and put watercolor on it, and it disappoints you because the paint ink's going everywhere. That's exactly what we want for this. So the first drawing I'll do will be using a soluble pen, and then the next two drawings will be using a permanent one. With both of them, we'll be using some watercolor. So we'll deal with that one thing at a time. Before as much as I can, I will stick to these four stages of a watercolor. But I think particularly today, you'll see that I might concertina some of these, particularly if you're working in a market and people are moving around. You maybe haven't got all the time in the world to carefully go through four stages of a watercolor. Before we begin, I said that some of you might think that this is going to be a bit daunting. So I want to show you one or two things that I've done in the past. I've just dug some of them out whilst Lois was talking to you, and bring out some aspects of drawing figures which I think will help. So here's a drawing made with a felt tip pen and just a bit of watercolor. And as you'll see in the other examples I'm about to show you, and indeed what we're going to do today, I think that surprisingly, the eyes are a really important part, or if not the eyes, the body language is an important part of drawing a figure. And in this one, the eyes here are looking down on something that's happening on the table. In fact, it's probably an iPhone, or probably a smartphone. It often is these days. And the connection between that and the shoulders slightly arched around as she's sitting at a stool, is the important thing to capture. However good or bad your drawing of the figure might be, there is a story. And I think this sort of narrative aspect of drawing figures, there is a story about this woman who's sitting at a stool. She's got something on the table where she's been drinking, but she is concentrating on communicating with her smartphone. So I'll show you a couple more just to bring that out. Here is a drawing of two people sitting at a cafe table, and the connection between them, they're talking to each other. That relationship, which is what is going to be quite important with what we're doing today, that relationship is more important than any kind of drawing, however good or bad it may be. So you've got them leaning into, this chap's leaning in a little bit. What the story is here, what they're talking about is intriguing, but there's almost a line that runs from their eyes backwards and forwards. And the last one I'll show you, yeah, we're back to someone being on a phone. Where this was probably at an airport, I think. I draw a lot at airports. And here is the lady. This is just done with a pen with no color on it at all. And she is communicating with her phone. And so when you're looking for something to draw, I often find it's what the person is communicating. It might be that they're looking down at the shopping stall, or it may be that they are looking at a newspaper or reading a book or looking at their coffee cup, or with a couple of people looking at each other. And so that sort of body language, that communication, I think really helps when you're trying to tell a story about figures, irrespective of how good or otherwise you may feel that your drawing is. Right, so let's look now to
Can I interrupt you for one moment before you move on?
Yes.
There's one of your students doesn't have any pens. Can she use watercolor pencils instead? What would you suggest?
I'm trying to think. Has she got a biro or something like that?
I'm sure she has a biro to hand.
Yeah, well, for the permanent one, anything that won't spread the water around would be good.
Even a pencil, actually, by the sounds of things.
Yeah, sure. Use a pencil if you haven't got a pen. That's just fine. Okay, and there'll be lots to take out of this lesson, which at some later stage, when this person gets a pen, that they can practice and play around with. As far as the soluble one is, I can only think that whatever you've got around that will flood with water, and we'll go with this. The first of my drawings is going to be the quickest one, which will be this in any case. These two ladies, I think I mentioned in a little bit of blurb I put out to Lois that I often find that when painting and drawing in a market, if you can just take yourself behind something, out of the way, you're pretty much not seen by anybody. In fact, in Fivizzano, because they have a lot of people drawing and painting in the markets, they don't bat an eyelid when they see everyone around there with their easels and sketchbooks and so forth. But in this case, I've pulled myself away from the bustle of the market a little bit. I'm looking out at it from sort of around the back of this flower pot, this plant here, and I don't know what I was drawing. I have no idea, but these ladies caught my attention, and I had to photograph them. Talking about communicating and telling a story, you can probably work out quite a good little story of what's going on here. I suspect this lady sits here pretty much every Tuesday. I don't know if you've ever seen her, Lois, but when I go back there, I'm going to go to that same spot. And I suspect she'll still be there. And I think people come and talk to her. This is a fairly elderly lady here, and there's a younger woman talking to her, and they're communicating quite, they were communicating together so much so that I don't think that they even noticed that I was there, which was marvelous. So I took a photograph, and it is this communication. It is this woman sitting in a chair, slightly slumped in the chair. You can imagine that the one that's standing up is doing a lot of the talking, and it's all sort of bouncing off her, as it's almost as if she's being pushed back into the chair by the volume and the repetitiveness of what this woman is saying. They are in a dark corner here. The light is coming from behind the woman. It's splashing down her back, over the top of her head, and it's very much bouncing off this lady's white hair, her face, and catching other parts, her legs, the back of her legs, the front of her legs, and there are shadows thrown there. You'll find that in these 3 drawings I'm doing here, unlike the practice painting, I think I don't know if we sent it through, but I did do a practice painting for this, and having done it, I wasn't absolutely terribly happy with it, and I thought, no, let's do some figure drawing in a completely different way, and here we are doing that. So I'm probably not going to, no, I won't bring that chair into it. I'll just make it simply, and nor will I say anything specific about the background, the type of wall, the windows here. I'm just going to probably just wash some color over it and get the idea that anything I can do to have the effects of the light coming from there. Okay, so that's a lot of chat from me about where we're going with this, and I think I can leave that picture there. Yeah, that should work. And can everyone see that all right, Lois, if we operate there?
Yes, that looks good. Yeah.
At some stage, I'll be bringing the paints in.
Someone's asking if they can use toned paper.
Yeah, whatever you like.
Yeah.
Whatever you like. I'm hoping that at the end of this session, given that you're going to be doing 3 pictures, one of them you're going to be happy with, and we'll see. But they're all done differently, so they're different approaches. And of course, if I may say so before I begin, this is as much watercolor as the traditional watercolor that we have been using up until now. In fact, for quite a few years now, if you went to pretty much any watercolor exhibition or competition or whatever it is you do, any form of pigment that is mixed with water is acceptable. Quite often even acrylic, which you mix with water, watercolor itself, gouache, inks, and so forth. Anything, I suppose even those watercolor pencils a lady mentioned a moment ago, anything where you're using water is, to my mind, watercolor. Here we go. Now, I'll begin with the lady on the left.
Could you explain why your paper is landscape and your picture is portrait?
Because I'm much happier drawing for you here landscape, because I've got a problem. I can't. This opens up too much, but that's a pretty miserable excuse. The other one is I'm actually going to draw it as more of a square than anything else.
Are we to watch you?
I'm going to make it work. I'm just going to make it work in this space. I'm happy to use, in this case, picture I showed you, that was me drawing with it vertically. I'm happy to that, but as you'll see when I do this drawing, I'm just going to make it work in this space, and it's more convenient to use this for.
Are we to just watch you?
I'm sorry.
To just watch you?
Yes. Now, if I could explain, because I'll do this fairly quickly, I think by the time maybe we come on to the next one, you'll be getting the idea. But I'll do this quite quickly, see how it goes, and then we'll let you have a go, and the thing will speed up after that, I think. Okay.
And this is with your water-soluble pen first.
I'm using my water-soluble pen here. It's black. It's a sort of black anyway. Let's just go for it. I've got this picture. So this, for me, if I just put the direction the head's pointing, she's looking down. She's looking down that way. Okay. She's looking down at the older lady there. So that's quite important. And I'm going to do that with the older lady. She's got her head tilted up. We'll deal with that. And then she's quite a large lady. So, and her arm is something like that. And she's got a dress on here. I'll come back to this little bit here because I just want to link her legs up with the other one, but she's standing upright, something like that, looking down. So this line here, that's what I've been talking about. Now I'm going to position this lady quite close to her because you can see that they're quite intimate in how close they are talking to each other. But if it ends up with her being further away, it doesn't matter. So I'll bring her up here, and the first thing I'll do is I'll look at the sort of the shape of the head, the direction, and it's something like she's looking up like that a little bit. You see, just like that. So the eyes, I find really important in something like this, so that we've got some sort of connection between the two. Now she's hunched up in this chair, so we've got her arm coming something like that. Okay, she's quite hunched up in the chair, and the chair comes down there, and you can see the rest of her body sort of goes off in that direction. I don't know what she's doing, holding a handbag or something like that there. So the chair is there, and her legs are, let's just see, we've just sort of guesstimate. She's got the leg that's over the top of the other one is something like that, and we can see the underneath of, and then she's got the other leg comes down and drops down a bit further. So I'm doing no more than that. Let's go back to this lady and put her legs in. She's something like that, got sandals on. Does that matter? So they're quite close together. She's sitting on a chair. I'm not going to put any more real detail on that, but I want to put some tones in, because interestingly enough, this pen is my palette when you're using something soluble. So I'm just using the side. I'm just going to make that quite dark, and I'm looking at the dark areas of her hair, of her there, and this is quite dark here. So I'm just popping it in. Dark skirt. And let's have a look at this lady now. She's quite dark around the back here, and the chair. I think it's a good idea you just watch what I'm doing, and then you'll get the idea. So I'm going to transform it in a moment. So there's the shadows being cast by these ladies. I'm not going to bother with the flower pot. I'm not going to bother with the windows, and the background. Just at the moment, there's some sort of a corner there. We'll worry about that later on. I would like the background to be darker, so I'm just going to take this up. Let's avoid her hair if we can, because we want that to sing out. Right, so if you were sitting there doing a drawing of these two ladies, and this is a good choice of subject because she's not going to move very fast anytime soon, and she's so engrossed in the conversation here that you've got time to just knock off a study then. And if you're thinking about, well, how are they looking at each other, that's very useful. So what I'll do now is, in fact, I'm not using my field set. I'll just use a pot of water, any water that you get hold of, any brush really. And it's a question of how much water is on the brush. And if I drop there, if I drop some water in, I'm sort of creating a painting really quickly. And I can, if I want to make it lighter, I can add more water. I can take the water off my brush. Let's put something in about the darkness. There's the chair. A little bit of, if I'm using less water, I'm making a grayer. We're sort of going from dark to light here in how much we use. And let's, wherever you touch the water on this soluble pen, you're going to get, let's take a bit of shadow down her leg here. And this is what's known as monochromatic painting. Monotone meaning one color, one chromatic. And whoop, I've gone over her hair. I didn't mean to do that. And I'll put some darkness there just to accentuate what's happening with the light of her hair. If I wanted to draw on this now, the pen would soon become unusable. So what you could do is just you could let it dry, or remember I said this was a palette. Let's make a palette. Go off to one side. I've just scribbled in, and that is going to give me some darker colors. I can play around with. Let's just, where do I want to make it darker? Just, I just want to make, whoops. I will use my pen here. I just want to make this a bit darker down this side. Now I understand, you may find it difficult to work as quickly as I'm working here. That's understandable, but hopefully you've got some idea of where else I want to do it. Some idea of where I've gone with drawing these two ladies, just using a soluble pen. And if you had as long as that available to you to draw them, you'll be doing very well. And that's doing that. Let me show you one I did by way of a practice, so you just get an idea. Here, I did this the other day when I was thinking about how we might do it. So you can see they always come out differently. Quite often the practice ones come out better than the others, but there we are. There's two drawings you can see of the same subject, and that was me just practicing what I'm doing now in this session. So everybody, I think when we get on to the next ones, you'll see what I'm doing and you may be able to follow along more easily. But for this one, if I assume many of you haven't been drawing, then I'm just going to bring a bit more darkness to her here. For this one, whatever you're drawing on, hopefully you're drawing with a soluble pen of some kind, then do you want to go ahead and give it a go? Okay, so that was that one. We'll just get turn the page. Okay, this time we're going to achieve another monochromatic one color, emphasizing the tonal or the values of the subject, but I'm using a permanent marker. They come in all different sizes here, but as long as it says waterproof or permanent or something like that, so that when we put our paint on it, it doesn't run in the way that the one we have just done ran, then that will be fine. So I'm going to draw this again. I don't know, I'm not sure whether I'll be putting more detail in or not, but I know, and then when I feel that I've done that, I will turn to my box of paints and I'll bring and choose a color for it. Here we go. So it's again the same sort of thing. I mean, if you want to get cracking, or as soon as you want to produce the drawing, this one is it is as it happens. I've got some here. This is a 1.2. I quite often shall I use that? Yeah, I'll use the one. I'll use a really thick one. 1.2. See how we get on with that. Okay, so it's got the head. She's looking down. Okay, this is her eyes. Okay, so we'll get that in here. And her shoulders sort of come up. Her arms are they seem quite high up, and then she's right, she's looking down a bit too close. Let's just get her there. Her head is really bent. Never mind, that will do. Right, let's have a look at the lady herself. So I'll actually draw a line here so you can see that what I'm talking about again. And her head is going to be up here somewhere. Her eyes. So we've got a head looking. She's looking up at her assailant. Yeah, and she's hunched up a little bit in her chair. So I'm hoping that because we're dealing with the same subject, not going from one to the other, that this will help you a little bit with your drawing. So she's like that. I put in as little detail. I just put a little nose there, but now she's slumped into her chair there, and something like that. And then she's got her this leg is, and she's got her, you can, from where we are, she's got her foot turned up a little bit, which is quite nice. It's a dark bit. And then this knee comes lower down than the other knee, and her foot is something like that. So there we are. She's up there close to that lady, and I think she's a bit further away in this drawing than the last one. And let's just give her a couple of legs to stand on. she's behind. She's behind the lady in the chair, so I can't quite work out where her legs are. That will do. Something like that. She's quite a sort of squat lady, isn't she? There we are. I don't have to do that. I was just putting them in a space, if you like. Now, I have a number of options here. I could do as I did before, draw in and hatch and make things dark, and then come in with paper. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave this drawing relatively what we'd call a line drawing. I haven't put any great tonal values in there. I'm going to do that now with my paints. So let's go to this paint set here. The top comes off. I'll fill it in for my drinking water. And it becomes the palette, the water bottle. Okay, can we put that there? This opens up, yeah. And so I'll spend a couple of minutes talking about this. And you've got the mixing palettes on here. And so what I did is I bought this. In fact, it had sort of fairly cheap paints in it. I got rid of all of those. And I got rid of everything else there that was in here. And I got rid of, there were lots more colors in originally. And I put in here my own colors. So I'll just talk about these because they are exactly all the colors I've got in here are the colors I've got there, but not so many of them. So you can see the ones that I put more reliance on. Raw sienna I've got here, which is this color over here. I use that. I've used that now quite often. In fact, I could even go so far as to say you should never leave home without raw sienna. Then next to that, I've got lemon yellow, which is the lemon yellow.
Can you move the paints off to the side a little bit?
Can I, sorry, what do you want me to do?
Move the paint set off to the side a little bit so I can see the sketch.
Oh, all right, okay. There we go.
Thank you so much. Yes,
yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Are you happy that I talk about the colors whilst you're doing that drawing?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I've forgotten you'd be drawing that. And then this warmer, so I've got a cool yellow, lemon, and then I've got a warmer yellow. I can't quite remember exactly what this is. I think I'd like to say it was this Aurelian or cadmium, but it doesn't look as if it is, but it doesn't also look as if, I'll have to dig it out. And it could be something called Windsor yellow. But anyway, the point is it's a warmer yellow. And then I've got a cool blue, which is cerulean, and a warm blue, which is ultramarine. That's what I've got down there. And then on the other side, I have burnt umber, which I've used a little bit. I think I've used all of these colors, one stage or another. Then next to that, burnt sienna, which I've used quite a bit, which is that color here. Then there's my sap green, my convenience green, which I've got down here. Next to that, I've got two reds. The orange red, which is Windsor. I think that's Windsor. And then and then crimson red, which is here. And then I've pushed one color in here, which is neutral tint. I used to use Payne's Grey. I'm tending to use neutral tint more now. But so all of those colors are in here, but I've left some out, obviously, because there are not so many available here. The other thing I did is that they supply you with a little pointy brush, which I don't like. So I've got myself a rigger, and I've cut the wooden bit off it, and I stick that in the end. So I've got a rigger of some kind there. Okay, we'll use that. And the other one is that I put in the biggest brush that I can get away with. Up until recently, it was this brush, which I cut down, so it went in there. But recently, I just got one of these mop squirrel brushes, the biggest one I can fit in. I've cut that down, and that fits in there. So oh yeah, the other really useful thing, although we don't need it today, is that comes out and it's a water pot, and you can pour your water in there. I have to remember that when I go flying, because you're not meant to carry water on, are you? Without there we are. So that's my watercolor set. And in a moment, we'll just make sure you've all had time to do your drawing. In a moment, I'm going to choose a color, and I will. Oh, why don't I do burnt umber? Or I was going to use this neutral tint, or Payne's grey or something. The point is, it's one color. It's a dark color that I know I can get darks with. I'll use the neutral tint. And then I'm going to use that to achieve something along the lines of that painting. Okay, right now, am I able to do that yet, or do people happy for me to move into that? Let's see if we can.
Yes.
Yes, we are. Yeah. We're doing all right. We're doing fine with time. In fact, we'll probably even finish maybe early on this one, but so I don't want to rush anyone. Again, this is a great way of doing quick paintings, particularly, well, any subject you like, but for me, it's quite good with figures, and it doesn't matter where you are. I mean, I do a lot of my paintings traveling along in the back of a minibus, and I can pick something like this out and balance it on my knee and do a drawing, or having done a drawing somewhere. We went to Vietnam a couple of years ago, and it was every day we were up early into the minibus and visit this temple and go to that market, and I was drawing in all of them, and I hardly had time to get my drawings done, and invariably I then worked them and finished them in the next minibus journey, and then back onto another one. So a little set like this was good, and particularly sometimes just concentrating on one color, especially if time is short. So I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to use this brush, this water pot. Let's come on down here a bit. And see where we go from there. So I think I've got the license to go ahead, Lois, would you say?
Yes, I think that'd be fair enough to just keep going. Yep.
Right. Okay. Now with watercolor, traditionally you work from light to dark, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. I was kind of trying to do that with the soluble pen, but you're picking up the dark and then working it as you saw. But here I'm able to choose that I can go light and then dark. But I'm also conscious that I want to get this done fairly soon. So here's my neutral tint. Yeah. I want to leave some areas plain paper, just as we did with that little church yesterday, for catching the light on her hair, the light touching the top of her head, the light down her back, the arms and the legs, and so forth. So I'm going to put this down as a wash. But unlike the paintings we've also done up until now, I don't think I'm going to have time to put the wash down and then dry it. And so I'm going to be moving through swiftly all the stages. We'll go back to the stages, when we do other paintings, but you can see that you can sort of move through. So let's just put a little bit of light on there. Okay, we can. So I'm just touching that in. You can see I can get this done very quickly by doing this. If you imagine if you're working on your own, you're not following what I'm doing here. You find you can get your pictures done really quite quickly. I mean, that alone would be enough, but I'm going to take it on a little bit.
So someone's asking whether graphite grey is like neutral tint.
Yeah, I think you could describe it like that. Yeah, that's just fine. Now, you have a number of options here. You could do that little painting sitting where I was sitting watching these ladies, and if I wanted it to dry quickly, I'd just take it and I'd pop it onto somewhere where the sun is shining, and given that it's always nice and warm in at the watermill, things would dry pretty quickly there. Or you could go straight into it, but there's a lot of water on the surface of this paper here. This isn't quite as absorbent, this paper, as the good quality paper. So it's sitting on the paper just a little bit more. And so what I'll do, I think at this stage, is I'll get my hair dry and I'll pretend that the sun is drying it out a bit. And just soften one or two edges. Okay, hair dry, here we go. So this is thinking that I'm in Fivizzano and the sun's drying. It probably doesn't take very long to dry it anyway. So let's just do that. And if this is a bit like the sort of the third stage of the painting, we'll go in and we'll put some darker bits in, but we'll try and finish it all off in this stage. So I'm picking up some, I'm just using the one color. We're going to be going into more colors in the next drawing. And let's make things a bit darker where I want them to be darker. There we go. And if I want to make things even darker, and if you like, jump to the next stage in the painting, I'll do that. So I'll pick up some stronger and I'll just make that a bit darker, and it can sort of paint itself in with all the water that's there. Right, let's have a look at the lady. The older lady. Where do we want her to be good and dark? Let's, I think I'll make that seat a bit darker in a moment. Yeah, I'll do that now, just picking some stronger paint. It's wet on the paper, just a bit of stronger paint there. Let's come back and these are really good brushes. This is so much better, this brush, than this synthetic round brush I've got here, because it picks up the water greatly and it gets to the point. So I'm using the point quite a bit, as well as the flat of the brush. What else do I do? I want to make it a bit darker. And I'm going to do something in the background again. Let's go back to my, it's quite loosening to just to have one color to worry about sometimes. I quite like just working monochromatically. Let's put in something at the background here, avoiding the areas that I want to be light. Right, I think whilst there's water on the page, I'll just make that a bit darker. Right, so you can see what I'm doing is really no different from the painting we've been doing for the last 3 days. There, let's just leave that and see how we get on with that. It's no different from the painting that I've been doing for the last 3 days. I'm using water, I'm using pigment. I've started with my drawing. I did a sort of wash. I then mixed, I went straight ahead and put in more colors, shadow, and if I wanted to, I could drop in more darker bits. In fact, I will make this darker. What she's sitting on just here. Just make that darker. I think that works a bit better. And indeed, when it's dry, or dry it and come in with some other details here. I've a couple of times used some white gouache. Maybe when I finish all the pictures, I'll see whether that would be helpful. I mean, do I want to bring any white gouache here to emphasize the hair that is catching the light? And maybe I do. That might be quite good, but I'll wait till it's dry before I do that. Anyway, I'm hoping that you're proceeding with this now, but we'll give you plenty of time to move on before we start dealing with more color. I'm now going to wash this, and just so that I please the lady who liked what I say, good luck, everybody. Okay, I'm turning my page. I'm getting my ladies back again. Let's move that out of the way. Okay. And I'll use this, I'll tell you what, I'll use the thinner one now. So that was a thick one. 1.2, can you see that? 1.2. So that's pretty much as you can actually get. Have I got it here? You can get, come here. Yeah, you can get this one, which is a wedge. And so it's like, yes, depending on which way you use your, you make your mark, you can get a thin or a thick mark. I used to use those quite a bit. I got a bit fed up with them in the end, so I don't now. But so I'll let's use. Have I got any ink in this one? Yeah, let's use. This is a 0.8. I tend to prefer the thicker nibs rather than the very fine ones. I think that's often because I hatch in dark areas and things like that, and you can do it much more quickly if you've got a thicker nib.
What brand is that, please, Mike?
Well, it's the same one as I had before. I think it's what do they call it? This was not a present for my granddaughter. Yeah, this is it. It's Unipin. You get so many different makes. It's just good to know whether it's soluble or permanent, you know, before you head off to throw water at it.
And do you ever use a brush pen? Someone's asking.
No, I have done, but it's not something that I do. When I used it, I thought it was jolly good, but I didn't go out and buy any more. So maybe I wasn't that impressed with it. But it's whatever suits you, really. It's whatever suits. The grandchildren love using these Sharpies. You know the Sharpies? The big, thick sort of felt tip pens. They love drawing with those. So I got a Sharpie here. Yeah, this is a Sharpie. This is permanent. So this would be a really thick mark here. Maybe I should use that. I'm not going to use that, but I think that's probably something that I use on that lady who was sitting at the stool with, yeah, the big thick marks it makes. But for some reason, the grandchildren all love Sharpies. Right, here we go. I'm going into my drawing. Please feel free to move into yours. This is the same subject, so it's not going to be. Let's talk my way through the shape of the head. I've just made that shape. Okay, and that's enough to sort of pull me into force me to make sure that this lady is looking down here. All right, so that's the big lady. If I put the head upright, then I'd have a problem with the story I'm trying to tell. This is thinner than the last one. I wonder what was going on. So that's fine. So she's gesticulating to this lady who's sitting on the chair. Give her a bit more hair. Comme ça. Let's come in with, so we got, again, I'll do exactly the same as I've done before, just make a line. I often do this, just an imaginary line, just to help me to get the sort of communication going. And her head is looking, let's bring it back a bit. Her head is looking up like that. She's looking up at the, so her neck will be bent in at the back there a bit. Her shoulders hunched up. Her arm is what we call foreshortened, so we don't see as much of it as we do for the other lady. So it's going something like that. And then she's sitting on her bench, on her seat. Give her some hair just to. And ignore that chair. I've ignored that chair all the way through this. She's got this leg crossed over, and then this leg down here. And our lady is sitting here. She's got a so they're all hug a mug here, chatting away, and I'm going to put the plant into this one, and maybe throw a bit of color around here. So I'm going to sort of put the plant in there somehow. Let's just worry about that a little bit later on, and maybe say something even more about the light. Right. That's pretty much the sort of drawing I did the last time round. Putting water on this isn't going to disturb it very much. I'm just setting them in a corner here of some kind. Let's now move to my paint set. So if I keep my paint set there, and it's just forgive me a moment, I'm just searching for something. Okay, right. I use my big brush. Come down here so you can see everything that's going on. Yeah, can you all see that? I think that's fine. I don't need this palette there. Again, I'm truncating for this one. I'll be truncating the 4 steps that we've been doing up until now, and as we go on after this, we'll probably slow down and do the 4 steps one after the other. But in for this, I've kind of got in my head that I'm sitting in this square, and just clean that out. It's just picked up a whole lot of the neutral tint. Yeah. I'm just going to clean my water. I'll be right back. Yeah, I have in my head that I'm in Fivizzano. It's market day. People do often quite a lot of different drawings. They'll move around the market, and that's a great thing about it. So I'm not spending a great deal of time making all these drawings because I want to move on to the next one. So I'm picking up some raw sienna, and I got rather too much water in my brush there. Raw sienna, need a bit of water, and you can tackle this in whatever order you like, but I picked up some burnt sienna and raw sienna, and I'm going to put that on their skin tones. And if I want any white of the paper to show through, then I'll leave that white. So I'm just sort of making some marks for their skin tones there. Let's give her some burnt umber here. Say this is burnt umber. I won't do her hair because it's white. And let's put some colors on. I'll give her a light blue top and dark blue skirt. So let's do that. And I'll leave a splash of light coming on there. So that should be, yeah, something like that. And so I am going to put washes on here, and then as I did with the other one, and then dry it and come back over the top of it. And I'll try and keep to the 4 stages here, but do them rather quickly. So we've got a dark skirt there. I'm putting in the lightest bits that I want. And I'll give her similarly. I'll give her a dark dress of some kind. I'll just put that over there. I don't know what color to make that chair. We'll come up with something. Okay, let's put something in of the background. Now, it's a sort of grey concrete sort of stone background, this, but I'm going to bring some colour. We've been playing around with our Tuscan yellows for the last couple of days or so, haven't we? Well, a couple of days anyway. So let's see if I can do something a little bright. It's going to have shadow on it. So now this is definitely not a colour I've got in my set here. So I'll have to open it up and see if I can work out what it is. So it's too, it's not dark enough yellow. So I'm going to add some red to it. Try and miss out any bits where I want the light to be. Go around her hair.
What color was that?
That was my yellow I've got here, but
yellow.
Be,
okay.
Yeah, it could be gamboge, or it could be a mid yellow. But I added red to it just to warm it up. Okay, and pick up my sap green and add some lemon to it, and let's put that in as a wash for the plant. And there's a sort of terracotta pot under it. So let's pick up some burnt sienna, a little bit of red, and just put something in there by way of a wash. And in fact, what I'll do, because I've covered pretty much most of it in some sort of a wash, let's just go to back to my raw sienna. It's a warm sort of color, and I'm just going to put that in here so that right. So what I've done there is what I have done with the three paintings pretty much that we have done up until now. This is the second stage. Having done a drawing, I put a wash in here, and I've sort of jumped a little bit. I've added some colors in here, but basically it's a wash. It's the light colors going in. I'm going to pause now and let you all sort of catch up with that. I will dry this at some stage, and I'm suggesting that maybe you get to some stage where you've produced a wash on this of your drawing, and then we'll move on and put in some darker colors and then detail after that. Right, so this it will take us into the next stage of the painting, which whether I'll finish it this one or I won't, let's just see. I'm inclined to, when I work out and doing sketches like this, I'm inclined to get them done as quickly as I can, but maybe I shouldn't rush this one. So do I need to add any color? I've already added lots of color here, so I don't think I need to do that. So let's look at some shadows. I'll use the same combination of blue and red and shadows. So that's ultramarine blue. Let's put some burnt sienna with it. And Yeah, but I will do. I will split this into 2 stages. I'll do this as if it was the 3rd stage with shadows and things. Then we'll come in and put in whatever details we need to. So let's see where we go with this. Let's put her face into shadow, and take the shadow up her hair as well, and round over her skin. Put a few little folds in her clothing. I'd like this edge here to be a little softer, and because I've painted wet over a dry area, it's quite hard. So I can do that a number of ways. I can just take the water off my brush and just do that and let it sort of repaint itself. Or I could have just smudged it with my finger a bit, but let's just do that and see what that does. So I'm going to take, come on down here on her skirt. I want this to be a bit darker though. Maybe I can do that when I do my details, but I've run out of shadow anyway. So let's put that, and something down her legs where the light, where there's shadow, something like that. There, and let's have a look at this lady. I can go over her white hair a bit, and so if you're painting along with me, if you're just putting in where you think you want the shadows, I will come back and do the details right at the end. So if your shadow, you can make your shadows darker if you want to as you go along, or just see how you go. But I just want to and take some of that over her arms. There's light catching her face, just giving it a little bit of a cragginess there, and what's going on here? Her arms, a bit of shadow down the sides of her legs. Mix up some more, same colors, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, and I'm going to put some darker green in here. So let's just switch what I'm doing a bit and pick up this sap green, add some burnt sienna. I must squeeze in some more burnt ultramarine blue here. I'm running out of that a wee bit, and just as we did yesterday, or we were fairly abstract with some of our marks to do with the foliage. Not getting too hung up on details. Let's just leave that for the moment. Switch now back to my shadow. Bit of a shadow thrown from that. The shadows thrown from the ladies where they're standing. And I want to put something in here, make that a bit darker. Right now, I think I'll stay with the shadow. Let's just see what happens. Pretty much the same shadow. A bit of burnt sienna. I think I'll just add some red. I just want to warm it up a little bit, make it a little a little more purple to reflect the light, the warmth that is behind it. Let's see if that works. I'm going to, I need a bit more. These palettes that I've got here don't hold a great deal, so you're having to keep repainting. So let's put something in. Yeah, go around that lady. Again, I'm not getting involved in any of the furniture and the architecture and anything like that. I'm just treating this as lights and darks and different colors. Let's just
Can you just revise what color that is that you've created there, please?
Well, it's my shadow color, but this particular one here, I just differed a little bit. I did ultramarine blue. I did ultramarine blue and burnt sienna a little bit, but I also brought in some of this lighter red. The reason is that I just wanted to keep this a little bit warmer in the background. In fact, what I'm going to do, whilst it's all still a bit wet, is, I don't know, maybe I could do this later, is just bring in, okay, let's say something about the rough wall that we've got here. Let's make some marks so it's not just completely flat. And in fact, I've just painted over some of her hair. We'll deal with that. Whilst everything's, no, we'll leave it at that, I think. Yeah. Oh, no, I need to do something about her seat. I want that to be darker, don't I? And so let's go back and to my ultramarine blue, a bit of burnt sienna. I think I might, if not now, I will at some stage add a bit of neutral tint to make that a bit darker. Okay, so right. I'm going to let that dry and then come back and put in any details. I think I might add something here. We'll just see. It gives me a chance to have a look at it and see where I'm going to go from there. Right, let's see what we do. Just to put in some detail. Do I want to make the background any darker? Yeah, I'll do something. I'll do something here just to bring something out on that. I've spoken before how you can, the color and tone and everything is all relative in that if you put something dark next to something else, it will make that something else appear lighter and it will make the darker appear darker. We do that with colors all the time. If you put a red next to this green here, and we used some red in our painting yesterday with a sort of in the foreground. If you put a red next to the green, especially because they are complementary or opposite colors, the red will react in that it'll visually make the green appear greener, and vice versa, the red will appear redder. So what I'm thinking of is that I just want to try and make this lady's hair appear whiter. Unfortunately, I've painted over a bit of it, but we'll rectify that later on. And so what I thought I'd do is I'd just bring in something into the background there, which might help that. And also I could do something here to make the light on her hair stand out. So let's go back to the color that I had here, but I'm going to make it much darker. So I've got ultramarine blue and burnt sienna, and mix up a fairly good quantity of that, and let's just paint that in around, trying to, you see, that's helped to lighten up. It's called negative painting in a sense, where we're making her lighter. Her face has just become lighter by putting something, by not painting her face at all, but by painting something around her. Negative painting, really useful. So I've done that there, and I'll do that there. I said I was going to sort of make this background a little rougher. I'm going to accentuate that by digging up some neutral tint and just dropping it in whilst it's a bit wet, just there. Just okay, so that's just made that a little more interesting maybe, and it's helped to make her hair whiter. Some blob appearing. Can you see that blob in front of that old lady's nose? Was it just my screen? Oh, see, it's the light reflecting. Got it. Yeah. Right. So let's bring in some. I'm going to bring in some darker shadows just to emphasize something of this lady. It's not quite strong enough to paint, so add a bit more. Let's just see. She's quite dark around here, so touch in one or two little bits, a little bit of shadow, just suggesting that the skirt is away from her legs a wee bit. Let's do something with this. I'm adding a bit more neutral tint and just a suggestion of there being darker areas to this plant. Right, let's go over to Our Lady here. But certainly I want the seat she's on to be a bit darker, and all right, I was going to get my white out, gouache white, but I don't think I'll bother now. So just because I've made, there's light coming over on her head, there's light coming onto this lady here. I'll just dig my rigger out and see if do I want to just a little bit more darkness. Where's my picture then? A little bit more darkness. Underneath her chin, maybe just to emphasize that she's looking up. All right, is there anything else? What's going on down here? Just some. make the back of her head a little bit darker. Right, I think that's it. I wouldn't get that much time to do this painting sitting around the back of that plant in the market anyway. So I was going to finish off with putting a little bit of Chinese or white or gouache on, but so I'm going to dry this so I can just flick backwards and forwards and wind this session off.